Folks, I am hearing from more and more folks that are getting stuck with lenders who are not performing. What I mean by this is you get in contract, you find a great deal, you go to your trusted lender. Maybe your lender says, yes, of course, we can do that deal. We can do a traditional, we can do a DSCR, we can do whatever. But I'm hearing more and more folks who are getting dragged through glass and ultimately not getting the loan closed, which puts the deal at risk and very likely your earnest money deposit. Because if you're having an extension, you might be releasing that EMD because your lender says this or that. I think we just need to have an honest conversation. I think more and more buyers need to have a backup plan because there are some people that do DSCR loans well, and then some others that are pretenders. Mr. Stephen Dow, you've done multiple for me, and I know you guys can get stuff done quickly. What are you hearing
Right.
out there?
No, exactly the same to some degree. But before we start, although I work very
Oh,
happily
yeah.
for Velocity Morris Capital, all the ideas and topics discussed on this channel, that of my own. So let's get it going. So again, with the I guess uh, option or alternative programs that are now available, aside from the full doc, tax returns, pay stubs, and such. Um, Although they're marketing them as available, it's just hard to kind of qualify still meeting that DSCR requirement, because sometimes the guidelines are just almost as tight. It's just a little different, but also just due to the current rate environment, it just doesn't debt service in those guidelines, right? So then now, even if you offer it, but you can't qualify, what's the kind of use? I mean, yeah, you assume things, but then, or you hope for the fact, but again, in certain loan situations where, well, on a purchase specifically, if you're put behind, somewhat of the eight ball as far as the time crunch, it gets a little, you get a little nervous, you know what I mean? So I'm
Yeah.
always a great plan B is what I wanted to kind of speak on this particular topic today, because again, I've had multiple situations where I've had to come in and kind of pull them out of the fire, because specifically there was a gentleman that contacted me on a Thursday, freaking out because they were 8 days outside of close. Original lender that they initially submitted the file to, when they first opened up escrow, declined them 8 days from close. So past the contingency period, nothing else they could do, right? So we were able to, fast forward that, because again, with our qualifying, process, no tax return, no pay stub, no W-2, and for residential, basically no DSCR. So the hurdles of what you would normally have as far as restrictions or, guidelines that you would have to qualify make it much easier to use, because again, we're not looking for that minimum 650 FICO, and the appraised value to come in to support your desired loan terms. But in that specific case, we found an appraiser that could accommodate a rush. That day on Thursday, we submitted Thursday. We got him to do it Friday to do the inspection. Typed it up on this, typed up the report on Saturday. Submitted the report on Sunday. I got a review analyst on a Monday morning, and we were ready for docs Monday afternoon. So as far as
Wow.
the ability, yeah, is to kind of assist, doesn't always happen as far as the planets aligning up perfectly. Good, but that area we just had great coverage as far as the appraisal. But more often than not, we can really push the envelope if needed. We don't want to be in that situation where
Yeah.
we're left, at the end, like, hey, please save us, Steve. And like, rush, 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 So, but if push comes to shove, we do have the ability. But I just wanted to press the fact that the ease of use with the product, because a lot of times you get stuck and you don't have any other options to turn to right before you might be feeling that you're forced to use just like hard money or private money with those maybe harsher terms. At least give me
Yeah.
a call and allow me to kind of go over some numbers, because again, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
numbers don't lie, and I'll compete for it at least.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot in this. I mean, I think we just need to be honest with ourselves, right? The mortgage industry is in a depression. There's a lot of mortgage folks that are be singing sweet nothings and trying to get a deal done. They will tell you
Right.
no problem, no problem, no problem. And then 8 days after your contingency is over, you'll get told no because the review board said no, and
Right.
you're stuck. You're out your
Right.
EMD. You probably had a bunch of costs incurred. I
Right.
strongly recommend folks reach out to, if you're in one of those situations, you need to reach out to Stephen Dow, get a file started so he's not in this whole try to create magic in 5 days. It's not normal. That's just bizarre that happened. Um, but yeah, I mean, I've used your products. You guys got it done for me. I think in 2 or 3 weeks, very much more a traditional process, very
Right.
easy appraisal, inspection, all of that. You're
Right.
not the cheapest. You don't pretend to be the cheapest,
Nope.
but you are one of the easiest, which is sometimes more important.
Right. And again, in this current rate environment, we're not too far off. I mean,
No,
you'd
you're
be
not.
surprised with some of the pricing. When I start quoting people like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. You know what I mean? So again, if you still can't qualify for any of those other programs, I'm usually a great plan B in many cases. And so at least, again, it's worth a phone call or email or whatnot to kind of get a conversation started and then let the chips fall where they may, because all I got to do is just provide, my
Yeah.
best foot forward and leave it at that.
Yeah, you do what you do and you do it well. You don't pretend.
Hmm.
Like the thing about Velocity Mortgage and Stephen Dow that I appreciate is you've done the same thing for all
Right.
the years we've been talking. You're good at that
Right.
thing. And you don't
Hmm.
pretend to do other, you didn't go out and create new programs. You're like, no,
Mm.
we do these four.
Hmm.
And we've had some fun with it. We created the 50-40-10, but that's just
Yep.
90% CLTV. We've had
Right.
some fun talking about house hacking apartments. That's just
Yep.
owner occupant living in a 6 unit or more, right? We've had
Right.
some fun dressing stuff up, but
Hmm.
it's all the stuff that Velocity's done for years.
Right. Right. And again, I think I said in a couple of videos where it's like the Swiss Army knife of loans, because we got so many different features of the products and programs. It just depends on the situation as to which feature might apply the best. And so it's like this
Yeah.
deal might need some tweezers or like scissors. This deal might need the toothpick and the magnifying glass or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
It just, yeah, allows for a lot more opportunities to assist in transactions where maybe other programs are a little bit more rigid and
Hmm.
restrictive. So again, the ease of use is kind of the trade-off for the cost of the capital. So like
I
you said,
couldn't
we're not
agree
the
more.
cheapest, but right now we're I definitely know we're not the most expensive either.
Oh,
And yeah,
yeah.
with that in mind, there's a lot of other kind of benefits to it. But anyway, I digress. But again, I just want to stress the fact that if chips fall where they may, and push comes to shove, if something happens and your deal kind of falls at the end, I'm around.
Yeah, you know
Easily
what?
reachable.
If
Mhm.
you're in a situation where your lender is, I don't know, let's say 5 days late in something they own, I
Mhm.
strongly encourage you reaching out to Stephen Dow, having a conversation. Your lender may come through and you'll be
Right.
okay. But don't be
Right.
in the situation like the gentleman earlier who was 8 days past and was scrambling and hoping for magic.
Well,
Um,
well, yeah, yeah, that turned out pretty well because again, the funny part was that the sellers, right, they kind of knew at the end, like, hey, at least they were pretty cool about it. The buyer's agent, communicated to everybody, let them know, like, hey, what had happened, and the sellers were pretty cool. But the sellers left town, thinking that
oh,
it was going to be at least 2 more weeks, right? Because again, like
yeah,
who,
yeah.
and like anyway, they were out of town. So by the time we reached everybody by Monday morning, right? And after they're like, what are you talking about? So the sellers had left town, and so they had to fly back and
Ah,
close that following Friday, which is the
that's funny.
original close date. So yeah, it all worked out. But anyway,
That's crazy.
but yes, definitely worth an extra conversation because Plan B, man, I don't mind being Plan B.
No, I think Plan B is an awesome one because again, if the deal's a deal, it's a deal, right? It's kind of how it all works
Right,
out. If somebody wanted to
right.
reach out and initiate a conversation or get a file started, how do we do that?
That's emailed just to sdao@velocitymortgage.com. In the subject line, please put the acronym ORAAT for one rental at a time. Body of the email address would be very helpful. At least city and state to make sure I lend there. Bars mid FICO score always helps as well. And then, of course, best phone number to reach you at. And typically 24, 48 hours, I'll be in touch.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Have a good weekend, Mike.